Hello, everybody. What's up, man? It's Matt Forte and my guy Jason Romano on Tuesday morning running back. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. And hey, a lot to talk about. Obviously, over the weekend, a lot of craziness, a lot of
Yeah,
stuff like all over the world of sports. But let's start with, man, my surprise team. My surprise team that I picked
New
had a
York
big
Giants.
a
Oh,
big loss. A big loss. Skattebo goes down and unfortunately, man, a pretty gruesome injury when it comes to, any kind of injury. You never want to see somebody who gets kind of the weight of the defender falling down on the back of their legs and they get caught under the guy. And it's nothing like because it's something that when you're out there, you're not even thinking about how to protect yourself from something like that. It's kind of like it happened. Like it's just you can't control anything about that. That's kind of one of the worst things when it comes to an injury of that magnitude. You're a rookie. Your name is getting out there. You're starting to make a name for yourself as a tough runner. Like you're an asset to the offense. You and Jackson Dart have got this bond together as rookies and taking on the league and stuff. And then boom, you get hit with that.
mm, yeah,
My assessment though from kind of, I guess my experience of being in the NFL, the mental battle is harder than the physical part about it, because you're
yeah,
just and the spiritual part. You're questioning, like, for those who aren't like super rooted in their faith, you're gonna be questioning God big time. Like,
mm,
God, you gave me this platform. I'll get, drafted. I get on this team. I make the team. I'm playing ball throughout the season. And then, like, why? Why now? Why? It's a lot of why that comes out. So, if Skattebo ever gets around to hearing this podcast or seeing it, um, as we often say, after you ask the why questions, ask what? Ask
mm-hmm.
God what? What is He using this for? And it's obviously for His glory and for you to come back even stronger. So we definitely will be praying that you do come back stronger. It's happened to many times. You're not the first. These injuries happen and guys have to get surgery, but it also does draw you back a little bit from the game because, at like any injury, the rough thing about it too is when you are the focus of that. Like if you're the one that got injured, everything just life just moves on, and
Yeah,
it kind of gives you a unique perspective of how life really is outside of the game, or on a higher level, how death is. Like when someone passes away, which we'll talk about later on in the podcast. When someone passes away, man, like kind of just the game keeps going. Like the game has to be played, right? They can't just stop the
yeah,
game. Was in some
yeah. The
cases they
Giants had to
have,
keep playing.
but
They had to
they
keep playing.
like the just it just keeps moving on. It's like you're it's like they mourn it for a little bit and then boom, it's just life keeps going. And I think there's some positive in that kind of perspective, because you get to draw yourself back and be like, man, I'm not the end all be all. As prideful as I might be because I'm in the NFL or I'm getting some notoriety and stuff, like it can be gone like that, and how futile life is. And like it says in James, like life is a mist. You're here for a second, it vanishes,
It's a
before we know
vapor.
it. It's life is a
Yeah,
vapor. Yeah. It's so, man, it's disappointing, and I know he's disappointed, and probably it's an unfortunate thing that, well, when an injury of that nature happens, and it happens all over the league, every team, players all over. But that's just kind of the unique mindset that a lot of professional athletes have, to be able to battle back, to fight the mental, to fight the naysayers who will be like, "Oh, he'll never be the same," or "That's gonna, ruin his career," or whatever the comments may be. You go out there to prove people wrong. You've been proving people wrong your entire life, and that's what the mindset has to be. I'm gonna go out there and prove everybody wrong again.
yeah. It was so hard to watch that, and I think Skattebo was courtside at the Knicks Celtics game Friday night. He's getting all the love, all the accolades. The Giants have played well. I know they blew that lead, a little over a week ago to Denver, but they were playing well. They had beaten the Eagles that Thursday night game. And coming into this game, I'm sure he was ready to go, and he even caught a touchdown before the injury happened. And I saw on social media that he was with his dad taking a selfie. So his dad was at the game, which I have to imagine was just brutal for a father to see, their child go down like that. but yeah, Matt, it's such a great reminder of the, it's not just the not for long, sort
Mhm.
of acronym that the NFL uses as far as, your career, but you did this for 10 years and you knew every single time that you were putting on those pads that it could be your last. And a lot of people, I think we hear that and we're like, look at Aaron Rodgers, look at these guys that have played 18, 20 years or whatever. And it's like, no, look how quickly that happened. The same thing happened to Tyreek Hill, right? On Monday night a few weeks back, same injury. Leg got under him, dislocated. He's done for the year. Tyreek Hill obviously has had a lot of success and played quite a few years in this league. But the idea that you have one more play and it could be your last, I'm just curious from your perspective as a player, like how you approach that. And maybe there's an example that you saw when you played of an injury, a gruesome injury like that. And not that we're trying to relive this, but I think it just is a reminder of how much work a professional athlete puts in and then it's
Yeah.
gone. I thought about Jason Tatum or Tyrese Halliburton when I saw
Yeah.
Skattebo go down. Remember when they went down in
Mhm.
their NBA game earlier this year and they tore their Achilles, and you can see them smashing their hands on the ground, knowing all that work in an instant, in a snap of a finger, and the next thing you know, it's taken away from you. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just from your perspective as a pro athlete, I'd be curious for you to talk about that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the mental battles of struggle, that you battle that every day. Like you wake up and you think about what the could have been, and then you think about all this everything that you've invested into it, because every nobody invests in something to get no return. Like
Right.
nobody ever does that. You invest in something to get a maximum return, and especially if you've done it before. So, when you put all that off season work in, and then the training camp, and even the preseason games and all this stuff, all the work that you put in, and for it to feel like it was worth nothing, or to have it snatched away, it really can bring you down. It really, really can, and it's something tough that you have to deal with. But um, the I just pray that when that happens, that guys have good people around them, have good teammates and family around them, to show them that they can't focus in on
Mhm.
just that one injury, because that's when you start to get like Adam and Eve. If we go back to Genesis, God gives them the entire garden, all kind of trees, all kind of fruit trees, all this other stuff, and it says, just don't eat from this one. They focus on just the one. When you
Yeah.
focus on just the one, and you just focusing on that, you're focusing on what God didn't give you, as opposed to what God all that God has given you. So same thing injury wise. Like if you're focusing on just the injury, you're focusing on just this one injury, but not the amount of grace God has given you through your entire career. And I think one thing that is ingrained in us, if you start playing at a young age, the first time I had an injury where, wasn't, you know, probably wasn't, it wasn't season ending, but I had to miss a game or something like that. I was in Little League. You're sitting there, you're standing around the pile, and bam, you get hit. Somebody sprains your ankle, something like that. And my dad, who played football, who's been on the podcast for Father's Day, and he played through college, he knows all about it. He's got these big 8-inch scars on the inside of both of his knees. So he knows a
Mm.
lot about the game and injuries and how disappointing that can be. He told me, I'm like probably 8 or 9 years old. He said, "Hey, man, you have to play every play like it's your last play. Otherwise, you standing around, that's when you're going to get hurt the most." And so when he told me that, every play, man, I'm like, that's echoing in my mind, that I can't be standing around. And when you're not going full tilt, full speed, that's when you get injured. But then if I go out there and I'm balling, I'm going 1,000 miles an hour, and I get injured, it was meant to happen. I have no regret
Yeah.
after that. And then I know it's and I know that the people have been down that road before, so I can look towards that as in hope, to say, you know what, I can come back from this. And it's a challenge. You have to mentally make yourself look at it like, you know what, this is a challenge. This is another challenge. It'd be
Mm.
easy just to have everything be all good and laid out for you. It's another challenge for me to overcome.
Yeah, and spiritually, like you said, it's a real challenge. Especially, I don't know where Cam Skattebo is as far as his faith, but I'm sure, um, you question everything when you're sitting there in a moment like that, and probably even headed to the hospital and then having your surgery, and like, all right, God, whatever that looks like, you're questioning it. I
Yeah.
remember when Dak Prescott in 2020 had the same injury to his leg against the Giants of all teams, and he was done for the year, and he knew it right away. It took him like a week, and then he came back and he started talking about how his faith has never been stronger. I
Hmm.
wonder, just real quick, and then we'll go into the next topic, about your thoughts on, from a faith perspective, seeing this, and either, like you say, either using it as a tool of the what, right? What are you
Hmm.
trying to teach me here, God? And how can I run towards you, versus why, God? And why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, God is big enough. He's not afraid of your questions. He's not afraid of your doubts. He's not afraid of you being angry at him. There's many people that things, and we're talking about a game. We're talking about sports and an injury. There's people who have had traumatic things happen to them. They got
Yeah.
carjacked, coming
Yep.
home from church, and they're like, "Well, where were you? Where were you at when that happened, God? Like, how come you
Right.
didn't prevent that from happening, or something happened to their child, or anything like that?" So there's many things that God, that has happened, that where you can look at it and take it in a different direction. But when it comes down to it, God is in control. There's many different ways that people react towards it too. Like you, I mean, he probably had to Halliburton had to grieve that injury for a little bit and then come back and say, in that process and process that. And now some people process it a lot faster. Some people process it slower, and like they're walking through that. But God will use everything. He can use an injury, just like Romans 8:28 causes all things to work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. If you know your purpose is to go out here and play this game and to use the platform to glorify God, even an injury, God can use that for his glory. And people react to it different ways. I remember I wanted to say something I forgot too on one of the podcasts, but about Tyreek Hill when it happened to him. If you notice, he was like he like smiled. He was like kind
Yeah.
of a
It
different
was almost
reaction.
weird. It was almost
It was
weird to
it
see
was
that,
odd. It was
right?
an odd reaction, right? But I actually identified with that because there have been many times where if uh, if I got injured and I ended up missing, like there was I think 2011. It was
Hmm.
a year my contract was about to go up, and contract dispute and all that stuff, and I got injured. The last 4 games you miss, and there was a sense of weight that was actually lifted off.
Hmm.
So I look when I saw that, I was like, I think Tyreek, there's so much pressure on him, right? You're a big name player in the league. And it's just a lot of pressure when you hold the ball like you're holding the future of the franchise in your hands, and like it's a lot of pressure to perform,
Yeah.
and it can be overwhelming, it can overtake you. And when something like that happens, he looked like he had a weight that was actually lifted off. Like, you know what? I don't have to do this for right now. Like I feel a little bit of peace in this, even though this probably hurts like crazy, and I'm out for the year. Not what I wanted, but there's a little bit of peace in that. So God can actually give you the peace in the middle of the storm, in those ways as well. If you look at it a different way.
That's really an interesting point. I think too, at some point, even though you have the piece, you have to turn around and rehab and attack the rehab, because you want to come back. And a guy like Cam, who's young, 20, probably 23, 24 years old, and a rookie, he wants to come back and prove, because he was a late round pick, fourth or fifth round, I think. He wanted to prove himself, and he was, and he'll want to prove himself again. I think for Tyreek Hill, probably wants to still come back too. I think his agents were saying, and he was saying, I want to play next year. And we'll see, at this stage of life and stage of his career that he's at. Either way, it's going to be tough. I want to transition, I think, to the next topic, Matt, if you're good with this, because there was some really interesting news that came about on Thursday. I'll just read the news. I'm sure everybody's heard it by now, and I just want to kind of get your thoughts, and then maybe we can go into the idea of this topic. But it was Terry Rozier, NBA player, Chauncey Billups, NBA coach, wake up on, I think it was Thursday morning last week, the 23rd, and they're arrested um, on October 23rd as part of investigations related to illegal gambling, authorities announced. And they were among a total of 34 arrested. They were a result of year long investigations covering 11 states involving tens of millions of dollars from the FBI director. Former Cleveland Cavaliers player and assistant coach Damon Jones was also arrested, allegedly provided inside information about NBA games to co-defendants who used it to place sports bets. We've seen some more stories come out since then of players involved in illegal gambling gatherings, I guess. I'm not even sure what the question is, Matt, other than just your reaction, I think, first of all. And then I think maybe there's a question, and, I think an overall discussion about just gambling in general. Because I saw Ben Watson, our buddy Benjamin,
Hmm.
post about the dangers of gambling. And then when we put it out there and we glorify and there's so much money exchanged, we shouldn't be surprised that things like this happen. But what is your reaction when you saw that
Yeah,
last week?
I like what Ben posted it because essentially the message was like the gambling game is set up for you to lose, and I think it preys on the pridefulness of people to say, you know what, I'm going to be that one that actually hits and wins, and it's set up that way, like, and it's addictive. It's an addictive, you know, things that they place it that way to make you addicted to it. Um, and they get rich quick schemes. Like there's so many verses in Proverbs that talks about quick gain and how it
Yeah,
doesn't last and it doesn't lead to anything good or positive. And um, unfortunately, I mean, like these things, it goes deep. Like uh, it it ruins families. It rips apart relationships of people, and just if we look at just what has happened, if it's especially it used to be very very taboo that you would see that the um coaches and players would be involved in that, but once sports betting was like legalized and these big platforms started, I guess guys felt more comfortable. I think there was a receiver a few years ago that got suspended uh for like
yes. I think the
I think it
Titans
was
receiver,
Titans
right?
or Atlanta, something like that. But
Calvin, I
yeah,
gotta look it up now.
Ridley, right?
Yeah,
Calvin
Ridley.
Ridley.
Yes, yes,
So, yeah, and it's just like who would be, and for us too, it's like who would be crazy enough. The game's already hard in itself, and I mean, are you being greedy in that aspect where like you make really good money playing in the league, no matter if you how you look at it? Yeah, you might not be the highest paid guy in the league, but you're making a lot more money than what people do uh, in the real world where there's other jobs,
of course.
um, and you're point shaving or faking injuries to get like you got to be insane to be doing stuff like that. You're gonna like it's gonna catch you. I always tell my kids this: even when you get away with it, you don't get away with it because
That's right.
because God is omnipresent, so he's watching everything, and so
Yeah.
he'll use that to not only humble you, but there may be a little humiliation in there. That's the root word of humiliation is humble. So um
Yes. It's good.
it's just unfortunate that that is something that the sports world uh, had to deal with, especially the NBA that hit the league that way, and like coaches and players were involved in it. But hopefully, this will deter people from further uh, involving themselves in stuff, trying to throw games or faking injuries or doing stuff that is illegal. Uh, that just tarnishes the league and the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I could go back 10 years and being at ESPN, and they would never even talk about the gambling side of things. There wasn't gambling experts. Um, there would be subtle mentions, but it was very frowned upon even 10 years ago. And then it became legalized, and DraftKings and FanDuel, they all came in, and now you can't go anywhere. I mean, it was really
Mhm.
odd even watching some of the shows when the news broke and came about on Thursday morning last week, and there were still advertisements for betting platforms and like what's the
Yeah.
spread on this game and what's the over under. And I thought, wow, like it's we were so deep into this that it's going to be really hard to fix, if you will, not because it's legal, right?
But
But like
everything I think everything that's meant for positive. obviously the enemy creeps in to try to put some negative stuff to like overtake that. Like when you have a garden or you got a nice landscape, you plant very nice things, weeds grow up within it. And when it comes to like, because I can remember like it's a staple thing like in the locker room, like dudes they bet each other on stuff.
Hmm.
Like they bet my college versus your college and things like that. And I never was big into it because I was like, well, I don't know. Everybody who went to like some of the big universities, like the Ohio States, the Texas, and LSU, and all these, like they would just had so much like pride about where they came from and the US and the SEC and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, I went to Tulane. Like
Yeah.
we weren't competitive at that part. Now my guy John Summerall has turned it around, and Willie Fritz, and they're doing great now. But I've never been I've never been a gambler or betting guy because I'm like I work way too hard for this to just throw it away.
Same. Yeah.
And even when I'm not gonna sit up here and lie like I've never been in a casino or something like that. Like, oh, yeah, of course you've been in a casino. I played blackjack before and things like that. But you get it out of your system. Like my dad, showed me. He's like, man, you go in there. He's like, make sure if you go in there in the casino and you got $500, make sure you're willing to lose that $500. Because if
Yes.
don't just keep. It's like, oh, I lost it. And I think the first time I went in there, it went by in like 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. It's like I might as well just threw it down the toilet drain, like
Yeah.
down the drain. But it's always been ingrained within sport, and it's not just on the outside; it's in the inside. Like people have all the sports bookies and things and all that stuff. But now with the cell phone, they've made it so convenient. So then you got people in there with these platforms and they're talking about parlays and things like that. And I'm like, what is a parlay? Like, I don't even know what y'all talking about. Over under. Like, I couldn't even, because
Yeah.
people would talk that language and I had no clue what they're talking about. I just like, I don't even want to be involved in it. It seems too complicated. And also, I don't like to lose what I've worked really, really hard for. But it's something that has been ingrained in sport, and it's always like something that's meant for good that has negative things around it that infiltrates. But you got to be careful around that.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't ruin as many lives as I fear it will. I'll read you what Justin Giboney, our friend Justin Giboney, posted on Twitter on this. He said, or on X, he said, a lot of things become clear in hindsight, but legalized sports gambling was clearly a terrible idea from the beginning. He says, not only will it continue to compromise professional sports, but it will continue to wreak havoc on families through financial crisis and even domestic violence. And I agree with that. I think I might have even retweeted that because I
Yeah,
think it's a problem. It's going to cause a lot of problems, and I just pray that it doesn't get too bad. But I fear that we're going to find out more,
yeah.
unfortunately,
But what's the
than we
main
already
goal,
know.
right?
Right? Yeah.
It's to get money, and then the fast way
Right.
to
Get
get
rich
to get
quick.
money. And literally, Scripture says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil.
That's right.
So if we get that accurately, some people say love of money, money's the root of all evil. No, that's kind of paraphrasing. It's the love of money is the root of all kinds. So that means all kinds of different things. You're gonna see, like Justin said, domestic violence, uh, homicides, like different things,
Mm-hmm.
like people who owe people money and all kind of, and then like even if and it tarnishing the game. Could you imagine if that got to Super Bowl level where it's like somebody gets found out that they're like it's the referees are involved and play, like that would be it, like there'd be no trust, there'd be no loyalty within the game at all. Like people would stop watching. It's like why would I even watch if we know it's rigged and all that. So it's bad, and it's definitely was a bad idea from the beginning.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, a lot of people do watch these sports because of the betting angle. And you could say fantasy sports is sort of,
Hmm.
it's not really betting, although there's lots of money that are
Yeah.
exchanged in the fantasy sports world. Let's not kid ourselves. And then obviously there's been bookies for years that were collecting money and on events and sporting events and things like that. You can go all the way back to the Pete Rose, suspension back in the late 80s and everything that's happened to him that's kept him out of the Hall of Fame because he bet on baseball. So it's been around forever. Um, but now it's kind of becoming more mainstream. And if you're going to do it in ways like unfortunately, what Chauncey Billups and some of those other guys did, it's going to come back and it's going to come out quickly. So, yeah, I would just, my encouragement, I know we got a lot of young families and kids that listen. I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, just watch the games and enjoy it
Yeah,
and have fun with it, but try to stay away from the gambling side as much as you can, I think.
yeah. Sports entertainment has no uh, there's no gray area where it comes to get rich quick schemes, you know, and that's what
Yep.
gambling is. That's what betting it on stuff is. Even when it comes, and it's in everywhere. Like people do horse betting and like all kind of stuff now. It's like
Oh
you
yeah.
get in the, and it's infiltrated everywhere. But I just personally never been one of the guys that's like, let me throw my money away or even risk throwing it away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I went to a casino once with my wife and we played Keno. If you know what that game is, Keno on the machines. And I went in with $100 and I lost it within 10-15 minutes. And I said, okay, that's it. That was my money for the spending and I'm never doing this again. Like that was not fun. I'd rather spend it on something else, that I could actually
Yeah.
have enjoyment in. So anyways, well, that was an interesting topic, and I think one we'll have to keep our eye on going forward. One I think we can get into because it is the hat that you're wearing there, which is a pretty nice hat there, the workhorse hat, is Matt Forte's workhorse of the week, which kind of was pretty easy to me. Once we
Yeah.
saw how this dude played, I'm like, yeah, there's your workhorse, Matt. That was a layup for you this week in your choices.
Yeah, absolutely. Workhorse of the week, gotta go. Anytime somebody rushes for 200 plus yards, like you gotta pick them as workhorse of the week. We had some great honorable mentions in there, some people that balled out, but my workhorse of the week is definitely James Cook with the 200 and I think 16 yards rushing and two
Yeah,
touchdowns with it, and helped the Bills to just mow over the opponent this week.
Carolina.
So.
Yeah, they took care of
Carolina
business.
was looking good. The former workhorse of the week with
Rico,
Rico Dowdle. Uh, it didn't happen this week. It's kind of the 200-yard rushing game power was transferred over to James Cook that week, and yeah, the Panthers got cooked. We can just say it
they
that way.
did. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, and the Bills look good. It'll be interesting. We can get more into this next week, I think, and we might even have a special guest next week, which I'll just tease. I won't say who it is, but he was a workhorse back as well. That we can get into this, but Buffalo looked good. New England's still in first place. Some of these teams, the Eagles, some of these teams that we thought would do well, Tampa Bay, they're doing well and they're playing well. Denver, big win over Dallas. So lots of things starting to take a little bit more shape as far as contenders and pretenders. Buffalo made a statement, I think, and James Cook having that kind of game brings to the forefront of a team that we need to once again pay attention to, because Buffalo, I think, has Kansas City in the next
Mm-hmm.
week or two, and that's going to be a huge matchup to see who's really taking that next leap to make a run towards the Super Bowl. So yeah, shout out
Yeah.
James Cook. By the way, you had another like a runner up too, right?
Yeah,
Kind
yeah,
of.
definitely had a runner up. I was really close to picking Brees Hall with, over 100 yards rushing, but two touchdowns and a passing touchdown. I mean, there's not many. That list is very short. Like, how many running backs have had a game with 100 plus rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns, and a passing touchdown in the game? That list, he might be one of the only people on that list. There may be like
I feel like a Walter
I think
Payton might be on that list or somebody
Walter
like that.
Payton,
Yeah.
Ladainian Tomlinson, I think he might be on that list,
Yes.
maybe. But it's a
Yeah.
really small list to be on, and that and then the Jets get their first win of the season.
The
The
Jets
Jets
won.
get the first win of the season, and
Couldn't believe
that's
it.
big. Justin Fields' first win as a Jet, and also the head coach's first win.
Yes.
Aaron Glenn's first win.
What a big win for that franchise, and especially, and this is what I want to lead to before
Yeah.
we get into what you learned from church. But we found out Sunday morning that Nick Mangold had passed away, 41, I think, super young, kidney failure, kidney disease that he made public just a couple weeks ago, and
Mm-hmm.
then they announced his passing Sunday morning. And I went and looked because I wasn't sure if you played with him, and you
Mm-hmm.
did in
Yep.
2016. His last year with the Jets, and I think in the NFL was your first year with the Jets and your second to last year in the league. And then to see the Jets play the way they did, fight back from a big deficit, and it kind of reminded me of doing something in honor of, a guy who fought for his team for so many years, and Nick
Yeah.
Mangold. But what memories? And obviously, it's sad, and we want to send our love and prayers to the family of the Mangolds. But just maybe some memories from playing with him, and what your reaction was.
Yeah, Nick means so much to the Jets organization, and he was a staple guy. When you thought about the Jets or you heard about the Jets, you thought about, he was a staple, perennial Pro Bowl offensive lineman. And uh, when I got there, he was one of the reasons I was like, man, I'm excited to play for the Jets. I get to run behind a guy like Nick Mangold up
Yeah.
front, and man, it's 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 sad, and it's like we talked about the fleeting, um, vapor of life and how that is, and how it comes about. Like you can't put your finger on it. There's no cookie cutter way to just say, oh man, that shouldn't happen, and people should be, what's God's plan for this and his family. He's a husband, he's a father, and and it's unfortunate, man. It's sad, but at the same time, man, it just kind of gives you that perspective of, man, give your life to Christ now and understand your purpose within it, because when you leave here, there's no redos,
That's right.
and there's been many not just the NFL family. It's a brotherhood, it's a family. It's been hit hard the last week or so because there's multiple people.
Yeah,
Doug
Doug
Martin,
Martin. Yeah.
my guy who was a running back with Tampa Bay, and uh, definitely at Boise State, kind of made a name for Boise State back when nobody was really thinking about Boise State and as a college, a big time college team. And then um, Art Jones, who Chandler Jones and the John Bones Jones, who
Yes.
is a UFC fighter. Like those three brothers who
Hmm.
highly talented in different areas and stuff, but to lose their brother, and man, it's like, and I start to think about the guys who I played with and have played against that were from my era who have passed away. Marion Barber back in 2022,
Yeah.
and
Your teammate. Yeah.
many other people, Vincent Jackson. And it's like, man, life is people just you just kind of just we take it for granted, take a lot of things for granted, and even if we're not trying to, we just kind of need to understand that God's grace every day we wake up is a blessing. If we don't have
Yeah.
anything else in this world, we wake up, and if we wake up and you got food on the table, clothes on your back, and a roof under, to live under, definitely blessed. But Nick was one of those guys that I loved how he was a veteran, a good veteran. He was a good vet. He was one of those guys that didn't take advantage of people, but they respected him enough to, when they wanted something in the meeting room or they wanted pregame food or something like that, uh, his guys would get it, and we got the benefit of it as being offensive guys. So, uh, he was just a happy guy, loved his family, um, and was a great guy in the huddle. Like super fun to play with, especially his relationship with Ryan Fitzpatrick and how they, kind of were, silly and goofy together. But just man, it just was a joy to be in the huddle with a guy like that.
That year too was 2016 when you got to the Jets. There was a lot of vets there, right? Like Brennan Marshall, I believe, was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You're there.
Eric Decker, myself, Brandon Marshall,
Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, Nick Mangold, Brian
Yes.
Winters,
Yeah.
um,
Guys who have played in the league
Bilal
for a
Powell.
while. Of
You know,
course. Yeah,
yeah.
Bilal. And then I remember we talked to Robbie Chosen, a couple
Hmm.
months ago, the wide receiver, and he talked about walking in as a rookie into that room with so many vets. And it just made me think of, Mangold was probably the staple, right? The guy who played his whole career with the same team coming out of Ohio State, probably on the trajectory to the Hall of Fame.
Hmm.
I know he's in the Ring of Honor, and he was really really good uh, on that offensive line as a center with the Jets. But it was sad, and I know a lot of people. I saw Rex Ryan, on Sunday NFL Countdown Sunday morning, and just the shock and the sadness that he had. Anytime you're coaching a player, you invest so much time in them. And obviously, the Jets fans were very sad too, but it was nice to let the Jets have a nice, come back and get that victory too. And I don't know if they did it in honor of Nick Mangold, but certainly with such a heavy day for the franchise, for them to get a W was nice and an honor of him.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. And I think we just got to take a second and pause and think about the fragility of life. Whether it's from injury, where you 1 second you're the most powerful and fast that you've ever been, and then an injury can happen and you're the weakest. You're vulnerable, and then health wise, you can play a game at the top of your career for over a decade, and yet life is fleeting, and we gotta love. I mean, if you have an disagreement with somebody, or you holding a grudge against somebody, like on the grand scale of things, like you got to get over it. You got to
Yeah.
forgive them for yourself. Not just for the other person, but for yourself, because that person can be gone. You could be gone in a matter of moments, and you it's kind of, I mean, it's just something that you got to take account for, right? And the regret, you don't want to live with regrets, and especially you don't want to have to leave and other people regret not having being able to live to the fullest. You're always gonna, you can spend every day with somebody, you're gonna miss them, right? But you're gonna miss them even more if you've not really dealt with some of the issues that. So I don't know why that was on my heart, but if you got issues with
No, it's
anybody,
good.
you got to take care of it.
No, I think that was worth saying. And obviously, our prayers go out to the Mangold family, obviously to Doug Martin and his family, and Arthur Jones and their family as well. It's all tragic. It all stinks when you're so young and you leave this earth. But like you said, Matt, we all got an appointed time, and so yeah, we'll be praying for them. And yeah, it's tough to take a left turn from that and go into what we learned at church, but we're going to in a minute.
Yeah.
First, I just want to say thank you to our sponsors and our partners for this episode, Operation Christmas Child. Real quick, this is a chance for those listening to send joy to a child in need through Operation Christmas Child, a project and one of the world's largest Christmas projects of its kind. And what you can do is pack a shoebox gift with fun toys, school supplies, and personal care items, and bring it to a drop-off location during National Collection Week, which is coming up November 17th through the 24th, where you can build a shoebox online. It's super easy and simple that way. And it's the good news of Jesus Christ shared alongside your gift to each child, and they're invited, those children, to join a discipleship program, which is so cool. Visit SamaritansPurse.org/OCC to learn more. SamaritansPurse.org/OCC with Operation Christmas Child. What'd you learn at church, my friend?
Yeah. So really quickly, regarding the NFL and the losses that have happened,
Yeah.
is I got to give a little scripture context between that, just to encourage those to
Oh, yeah,
live
please.
to the fullest right now. It's just one. It was on my mind. It's Hebrews 9:27. It says, "It is appointed unto man once to die, and then comes judgment." So, there's a lot of you know thought processes or theologies or doctrines out there, but it is appointed unto man to die once,
Yeah,
and then is judgment. So therefore, live your life with that in mind, right? That we are appointed up to, like, you live, you live your life, you pass away, but then there is judgment. So,
that's
with
a
that
great
being
reminder.
said,
Yeah.
yeah, at church today, we Pastor Charlie Dates went through Mark 5, and
Mm,
started in verse 21, which is a great chapter. Well, all of it is great, but it's a really good chapter. It's the miracles and healing, because everybody wants to, you know, talk about the miracles and the healing and things like that part of the Bible. But um, I'll read a little bit of the first verse, verse 21, that he went through. When Jesus
yeah.
had crossed over again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed by the seashore. One of the synagogue officials named Jairus came up, and upon seeing him, fell at his feet and implored him earnestly, saying, "My little daughter is at the point of death. Please come and lay your hands on her so that she will get well and live." So
Hmm. I
read
love
that
that
whole
scripture.
chapter, read from 21 all the way to the end. But so Jairus, I got to give a little context. He's a synagogue official, like a leader. He has notoriety. He has money.
Yep.
He has the means for health, right? And he's obviously to the point where he's like, my money can't buy her health. My being known and my notoriety or my importance because I'm a synagogue official will not make her well. But he knew who to go to. He sought Jesus out. And when he got there, the humility that he had, he didn't just walk up, shake his hand, was like, "What's up, Jesus? I know you do miracles. Like, help me out. My daughter's dying." He fell on his face. So, one of the main points of the sermon was we have to get a posture of not watering down the gospel.
Hmm.
When we come to Jesus, it'd be really easy to sit in the chair and say our prayer or to, let me lay in the bed and say my prayers. Like there's nothing in the Bible that says you have to get on your knees. But if you notice, those who encounter Jesus in an authentic encounter experience, and they see Jesus and they know who he is, they know who he really is, not just a prophet or somebody who can do things for you. They see that is the Son of God or that is God in the flesh. They all fall down on their face and prostrate, like hands and knees in worship of him.
Yep.
And for him to do that, Jesus sees his faith, and faith is irresistible to God. Now, if you want to do something that is that will do the opposite of be attractive to God, it's the pride aspect. But
Mm.
humility and faith is irresistible. God will move when those things happen. But there's also lessons to be learned in this. They call it the sandwich miracle because Jairus is like, "All right, I got Jesus." And just think about his mindset. He's like, "I got Jesus. I'm bringing him back to the house." He probably left the house, told his wife, like, "Look, I'm going to get that guy Jesus and I'm bringing him back."
Yeah.
And he's walking back and he's looking, it's like Jesus is he's coming. But if you notice in the rest of the passage that another woman who had an issue of blood,
Yes.
Jairus' daughter is 12 years old. This woman has been dealing with an issue longer than his daughter's been alive. So she knows, if I can just touch the hem of Jesus's clothes, I don't even have to talk to him. If I could just touch the hem of his garment, I know how I can be healed. And her having that much faith, all she did was touch his robe and was healed.
Hmm.
And Jesus turns around and, like, you can imagine Jairus is like, "All right, where's Jesus? I just had him. He just told me he was coming, and
Yeah.
yet I can't find him now. He's not even around." But sometimes it's a lesson if you look deep into that. And I love that Charlie went into this. Is that when you need a miracle the most, Jesus always has time to perform miracles. He's not going to pass somebody up just
Right.
because you need something. And do we have the faith to know that a delay is not a denial of his goodness?
That's
So
good.
sometimes when we need something and it's urgent, it's never urgent for God. God is right on time every time. As I love the song, you may not come when you want him, but he's always on time.
Yes.
And a delay, this is the best part, the delay is never a denial. So if we have the faith, I think Jairus had the faith enough to say, well, he may be delayed, but I know he's coming. And he shows up, and the people literally laugh. Like Jesus said, she's not dead. Why y'all crying? Like, don't be in here crying and mourning like she's just asleep. They
Yes.
laugh, and then
So
he kicked
good.
them out of the room. He kicked everybody out, and he brought in those who had faith. He brought in Peter, James, and John, and the mom and dad.
Yep.
And so sometimes, as what Pastor Charlie Dates was talking about, sometimes you got to get to those people who have the same amount of faith that you have, and you get with them and you pray with them. because it's those who doubt and kind of don't have the faith, and they kind of just, it's possible to believe in God and go to church and not have that type of miracle believing faith. He's like, you got to get with the ones who really trust God, and that's what. And obviously, he tells the girl. He says, uh, "Talitha koum," which means little girl, get up. And what's great about that is I love that Charlie went into this. He said, "Hey, dead people don't hear." He spoke to her. He was like, "Dead people, dead ears can't hear." He
Yep.
spoke to her, and he's like, "The word of God has the power to go back to past dead or deaf ears. Has
Mm,
the power to overcome, um, the power of death." And until that point, people had seen other miracles. They'd heard about Jesus having the power over nature because he calmed the storm. They saw him having the power over disease, healing lepers, but they had never seen him have the power over death yet. And then
yeah.
this happens, and they're like, "Whoa, who is this guy who can, have the power over death?" And so, man, that just gives us so much encouragement that any dead situation, not just physical death, but any dead situation that you could be involved in, or maybe going on in your life, God can speak his word over that. If you seek him and you faithfully and humbly fall down on your face and approach him, he has the power to overcome that.
Mm. A delay is not a denial, too. I love that because I've read this chapter many times. I think I even preached on this at my church a couple of years back, just on the lessons that Jesus was just showing and how he was living out his life in terms of being patient, in terms of being present, in the moment, because Jesus is walking through crowds and he's trying to help this rich dude, Jairus, and then the woman touches him and he stops in the middle of a giant crowd and says, "Hey, who touched me?" And just all of what's encompassing in this chapter, like you said, it's so good. The sandwich, the sandwich healing, which I hadn't heard that before.
Sandwich miracle, yeah.
Sandwich Miracle. Yes, that's I hadn't heard that before, so that's good. But yeah, go read that because Mark 5 is just gold. It really is in terms of that miracle healing. I think I forget that sometimes, Matt. I think maybe all of us do. That
Hmm.
I trust in Jesus. I do, and I love the Lord, and I want to seek Him, and I know He's there, and His mercies are new each morning when I wake up, like today, Tuesday morning. But I don't think sometimes I really remember that this is a miracle healing savior that we have placed our faith and trust in, and he can still do that today.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. And it's that's why we need it. And it talks about God's word being the bread of life. Like, you don't eat bread once and then I'm good on bread for the rest of my life. No, this is the bread of life where we need this word, the word of God, each and every day, each and every day, because
Yes.
um, we soon forget the small things that God does, like just the new mercy, as it talks about in the Bible. Every time you wake up, every day, it's new, and it's
Yeah.
like He has such an endless supply of grace and mercy that He gives us every day that we wake up. And we do definitely, forget about those things, or even forget about, the power that God has. That's the power in the name of Jesus. And
Yeah.
that's just, it speaks towards so many things, um, so many things that God can not only do, but that He can do to transform you. You know, um, Transformation is the thing. It's not just kind of just the being on the team, as so to speak, where I wear the jersey, I got the helmet, I got the pads and stuff, but are you in the game? Are you contributing towards the victory that has already been won? So,
Yeah. Transformation. That's it. Well, that's good stuff, my friend. Yeah, it was coming up in sort of the middle of the season here with the NFL and college football is taking shape. The playoff rankings are coming out soon. World Series is in full force here, and we'll see who takes the World Series by the time we chat next week. Maybe we'll know the answer to that.
mhm.
NBA is underway. College basketball starts in another week. It's a good time, like we said last week. It's a really great time to be a sports fan. But the Word of God, I say that also hearing what we just talked about and thinking sports is great. What we do at Sports Spectrum is so much fun, but man, the Word of God, it's
Yeah,
it's 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 uh I don't know, man. It's just that's where I'm most hungry for. I
yeah,
love sports, I do, but man, I just want to keep chasing after Jesus.
yeah.
So
It's transcendent, and
it
it's
is,
just once you get it when you get a taste of the authentic gospel and the truth of it, and how good Jesus is, then you just know you develop that appetite for it, and you
yeah,
realize that wow, sports is good, NFL is good, being a professional athlete is good, or having made some money is good. Jesus is better.
way
Like,
better.
always better. Way, and it knocks it out of the park. It's not even stand a chance. And so,
Chase after
everybody out
him.
there who's listening, man, y'all, you're on the right station. You're tuned into the right place, and just keep pursuing God, keep pursuing Jesus, and not that everything will be fixed, but He'll be definitely the most consistent and stable thing. And it talks about one of the favorite things that I heard in the Bible is that He remains loyal even in our unfaithfulness. It's almost like the more unfaithful we are, He's like, I'm gonna pursue you even more, because I just know once you get a hold of this, it's irresistible. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always good. Thank y'all for tuning in.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Just want to give a quick promotion for Friday, October 31st. Owen Power and Kent Johnson are going to be our guests. They're two hockey guys who played together in college at Michigan. Speaking of which, hockey in full force as well and underway. The upcoming season is here. It's already upon us. It's been upon us for the last few weeks. But we get Owen Power from the Buffalo Sabres, Kent Johnson from the Columbus Blue Jackets, now in the NHL. Young studs playing, against each other quite a bit. And it was good to see their growing faith. They're very new in their faith. You could sense when we talk to them, Matt. But I think people will enjoy getting to know these young guys and a couple guys that they can cheer for in the NHL. This year and for hopefully years to come too. So that's coming Friday. You can always find our content at sportspectrum.com. And by the way, use Sports Spectrum as a tool to share the gospel if you want. I mean, that's kind of why we do this, right, Matt? We want people to be able to take whatever they see in sports, but certainly with Sports Spectrum, and be able to use it as a tool, as a vehicle, as a resource to be able to share the gospel with others. So please, you can do that. All of our content's free. This podcast is free. Please take it and use it in whatever way you'd like to share the gospel with other people. And one more shout out, Matt Forte. I have to do this because yesterday was my mom's birthday, and today is my little brother Damien's birthday. So shout out to my mom. Love you, Mom. Love you, Damien. Today's his birthday, and happy birthday to those two. So we appreciate that.
The Romano family, happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you guys next time here on Tuesday Morning Running Back in Sports Spectrum.